Dr. Zubeda, thank you very much for your time. The work that you do is very, very important, but we're curious to know about the passion that led you to this specific line of work.
You know, I trained as a clinical psychologist, but ever since I was a young woman, my passion was to work with people and to help people. Obviously, at that time, I didn't know how, and I had thought of a number of different professions. But by the time I had matriculated, I realized that I want to go into working with people, and that psychology would be the best direction for me, because I'd researched this. And as I continued to train and work, I met many, many women on my journey. When I see the change that happens in people's lives, it's the most rewarding thing one can find. There is nothing that compares to it, not even your monthly salary, even if it's a big salary. So I think that that is something that has spurred me on and continues to spur me. Because a lot of people said, but you're doing this for such a long time, why do you stay? But actually speaking, every day is a different day. Every challenge is different. Every woman's story is different. And so if we can make a difference in those women's lives, I believe that they can then follow suit and make a difference in their own lives.
There's an interesting view that one questions if there is more gender-based violence now, or if we just know about more cases of gender-based violence due to media, social media, just having much more awareness. What is your view, having worked on the ground for these years?
So I think that it's true that there is much more media attention, but I also believe that there has been an increase in gender-based violence. And I can tell that from the kind of work we do, the number of women that contact us, the number of women who call telephonically to ask for help. It just never stops, and in fact keeps escalating.
And especially during the lockdown, we saw that lockdown was a particularly dangerous time for potential victims of gender-based violence. Is that correct, Doctor?
Yes, absolutely. So in the beginning, when we were under hard lockdown 4, I think 5 and 4, it was very, very difficult for women because they were locked in with their, abusive partners. And that made it very difficult for them to seek help or to move out of the house or to be even able to send a WhatsApp message without fear of being found out. So we found at that point in time, people didn't come through so much. But as the lockdown became released, we found that more and more women started coming to the shelter. And that's a trend that we've actually picked up, not only here in Gauteng, but also in the Western Cape and other areas where women are coming to shelters much more frequently or calling out for help. The one thing, however, that we've discovered recently through research that we've done at the NSM is that a lot of women don't actually know about the help they can get through shelters. They find this out when they meet a social worker, or they find it out if they happen to go to a police station to report their situation. But you know that not all women can muster the courage to go to a police station. So the thing is that we really want to be out there to enable women to understand that help is available.
I think it's so important what you had said earlier about how there isn't a lot of compassion in the world for women, especially once they come out of an abusive or violent situation. And that's such an important place in society that your organization and that shelters fill. I wonder if somebody is watching right now and maybe they're in that space where they're making a decision, but they're quite fearful of leaving their relationship. What would you say to that woman who's got her children with her and possibly has little to no prospects and is afraid?
I would say that firstly, women need to affirm themselves. They need to be able to understand that they are worthy beings. They need to take away these thoughts that entrap them. And those thoughts like, I'm to be blamed for what's going on in my relationship. My family blames me because of the marriage I got into. So there's all those kind of messages that play out in the minds of women when they're deciding to leave. And the fear actually then grips them even more. We find that women don't have the self-esteem. It's so important for women to be able to say that to themselves, that I am worth it. Because if they are worth it, then they're going to be sure that their children are also worth it. And I would say that women need to be able to talk to somebody that they truly trust. So this could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be a neighbor, it could be an organization for that matter. But you need to know that you keep talking until you are heard, because help is available out there, even if sometimes you may be judged, because a lot of people out there don't understand the issues. And because they don't understand the issues, they actually end up blaming women for being in abusive relationships. And so it's very important that women, and particularly young women who get into relationships, start understanding that if something doesn't work, you need to either cut off the relationship or you need to go into counseling to be able to assess that is this the beginning of an abusive relationship or not. And also then perhaps go into premarital counseling. I can't emphasize that enough, because I think young women get carried away, with being in love, with all the notions of marriage and, the marital ceremony and all the exciting stuff that happens, that they sometimes put aside issues that may be very serious and are actually there, but are not being played out sufficiently for you to take recognition of it.
So with a clear mind, what are some of the warning signs that a woman can look out for?
Well, if you're in a relationship and you're picking up signs of abuse, for example, if there are signs that your partner is wanting to control you, tell you what to wear, where to go, who you can talk to, who you can't talk to, what you should do and shouldn't do, those are very clear warning signs that you need to start looking out how regular is this. Because if it's going to start already at a point when you're in a courtship process, it's unlikely that this actually stops. And this is basically on the basis of our experience that I tell you this. When you talk to women who've been in relationships for over 20, 30, 40 years, and they go back and really self-reflect and evaluate, they will tell you that, the signs were there, but I was not really willing to look at that. I lived in hope, and I hope that, by being married, things are going to get better. Or by living with this person, I'm going to change him. Sometimes, no matter what you do, it's never good enough. And so the power and control issues are very, very clear signs that should be watched out for. And I would say at that point in time, maybe go into counseling to really establish whether this is an abusive relationship or it's just a one-off experience. Because a lot of times women will tell you, even though they're in an abusive relationship, no, but he's not actually abusing me. And there's another myth out there for many women that if he beats me, he loves me. And so that still exists. We would think that after all the years of work that you tried to do, that this notion has changed. But in fact, it hasn't. You might not see it with every single person, but you do see it on and off with people kind of saying that, I need to stick it out. And they live on hope. But the reality is very different. A lot of femicide issues arise when women want to leave relationships. So at that particular point in time, it's really very important that women make sure that if they're leaving, they are actually very safe. Or sometimes, if their partner has been imprisoned, it's very important for the authorities to let the woman know if the partner is being set out on parole. When this doesn't happen, women get killed. And this is not only in South Africa, it's across the world.
So I believe that your organization is working on a way to bring even more awareness to how shelters can intervene.
Yes, so the National Shelter Movement is in the process of setting up a 24-hour shelter helpline. So this is a dedicated helpline. It's unlike a helpline which says you can get any sort of help. This is particularly for women who come out of intimate partner violence or domestic violence situations. And the helpline will really help women to make sure that they get the information they require, whether it is about a protection order or whether it is about you're reporting to the police, or whether it is wanting shelter. We believe that the dedicated helpline for sheltering will start making a difference in women's lives, in that they will be able to access shelter much more efficiently and quickly, because we know that in the process of trying to get help, women lose their lives. You need to understand, what it means for a woman to leave her home, her family, her children, and come for help. It is the most painful experience, and women don't do this until they're really at the end of their tether. They don't want to really leave. They're afraid. They don't want to trouble their families. They want their children to be taken care of. So they think of themselves last. And this is a very important concept, that women need to start believing in themselves, believing in their self-worth, believing in their importance first.
Doctor, in closing, what is your message of hope?
So my message is that women need to realize that knowledge is power. They need to inform themselves in order to change their lives. They need to understand that they should not be blamed for abuse, even if this is told to them. They need to know that they are not alone, that help is available, and they need to sometimes carry on asking for help, even though it sometimes can be a tiring process. So I think that it's really important that they accept their feelings, that they continue, even though it's very painful and difficult, and they go through so much of trauma in that process of trying to leave a relationship.
Dr. Zubeda, thank you once again, and all the best with the rest of your year.
Thank you so much, and all the best to you as well.